Super hot ex-roommate is my boss, and he hates me. The last thing I expected to see on the first day of my new job was my ex-roommate. I stepped inside, catching those hazel eyes glaring at me with an unbridled hatred. "What are you doing here, Damien?" I pursed my lips, surprised at the venom in Corey's voice. "I work here?" It was pure coincidence that we meet up like this. I've been out of a job for over 6 months, desperately filling out applications. When Breacher Corp called me back, I thought it was the perfect job. Until now. Corey glared. One thing was clear. I wasn't welcome. "I refuse to have you on the team." "Your HR rep hired me," I calmly explained, feeling the anger grow. "I didn't know you'd be my boss." "Well, I didn't either. I doubt you'll do the job well, considering your track record." The nerve of him. Okay, I did make a mistake, and I left him high and dry. However, I did pay my part of the rent. Our argument was stupid, and I still hated myself for abandoning him. But for him to bring this up now, of all times, right as I was trying to make this work, upset me. I'm here now, so please, show me where my station is. "Absolutely not," he said, folding his arms. "In fact, I don't want you anywhere near me." He walked away, leaving me alone. Sighing, I looked around at the eyes that stared at me like a sideshow. "Do you two know each other?" the guy in the cubicle nearby asked. How was I supposed to explain that? He was my ex-roommate, who hates me because of some petty argument, and he's got a grudge. I shrugged. "More or less. Do you know where the cubicle for Damien Hansen is supposed to be?" "Oh, there," the guy said nonchalantly. "Don't let Corey get to you. He's always doing his best for everyone." I sure wish he would do the same for me and not let his biases control everything. After thanking the guy, who I learned his name was Rex, I sat at my cubicle and worked. As I read through the employee manual, I sighed. I didn't want bad blood between Corey and I. All I wanted was to get along. "You did this all wrong!" Corey's words bit through the air as I looked at him. Those cold, calculating hazel eyes seemed even angrier than before. I gestured to the instructions in the prototype. "I did everything per the instructions. What's your problem?" "My problem is that you can't even follow basic instructions," he muttered, his eyes glowing with anger. "And I don't appreciate you back-talking to me." Okay, now he was trying to start something. Sighing, I shook my head. "That is not my intention, Corey." "Well, you certainly conveyed otherwise." Our eyes met, and the sparks between us grew. I turned away and scoffed. "Listen, I'll redo it. But you need to back off. I'm doing my best, Corey, and if you have something to say, then say it." Corey glared. It was so apparent he wanted to say a lot of things. Natalie rushed inside, with a smile on her face, interrupting the ever-growing tension. "Hey, Corey, Damien. Listen, Corey, could you look at this? These are the staff files and—" "Bring them to my office, Natalie. Thanks." I bit back a quip about how nice Corey was to Natalie, and not to me. Then again, she just did her job, whereas with me, it was clear he had other problems. Natalie and Corey walked away. She flashed me a grin, but I slumped in my seat. Why is Corey acting like this? Whenever I look at Corey, my heart skips a beat and makes me feel strange. I can't possibly like him. The guy hates me. It doesn't stop me from checking him out though, and admiring how his body looks in those suits. Wait, what's wrong with me? I never thought of him like that. I gotta reel it in before I do something I might regret and get fired from this place. "Come to my office." Corey walked past me before elaborating. I turned, cocking my head at his words. "But why?" "Just come with me," he replied, his eyes facing forward. Sheesh, could ask a little nicer. Corey's been cold as ice since I started working here, and it feels like every day the tension's rising. I walked to his office, and he let me inside a moment later. As the doors closed, he glared at me. Crap, I'm getting fired. Listen, Corey, I'm sorry about the mistake. I'll make it better. That's not why I called you here. Then what do you want? What is it then? He folded his arms on the table and leaned forward. The light cast a slight glow on the 5 o'clock shadow he had. I want you to help me with a project this Friday. Sure, what is it? I finally choked out, pinching my thigh. I had to be dreaming. There was no way Corey was asking for my help. He sighed and shook his head. I'm sorry for getting on you about the files. They were right. Appreciate the apology. That doesn't mean I'm okay with this arrangement, Damien. Back to the matter at hand. There's a marketing campaign I need ready before Monday morning. We don't work weekends here at Beecher, so I need you to help me this Friday. You're to meet me here at 5. After hours? Yes, this is a personal job, and I will compensate you accordingly. All right, I muttered, still confused by what he was implying. Why me? Was he going to give me more flack because of my mistake, and he wanted to do it when nobody else was around? And why was I almost excited to go see him? As I headed back to my desk, I leaned down and rubbed my temples. The mixed signals Corey gave to me might be the death of me, or maybe the beginning of something new. I went to Corey's office at 5 on the dot. He let me in and gestured to the smaller area next to his, where a computer sat. We're going to work here. Tonight, we're going to design all the email templates, so they'll be ready by Monday. All right, I replied with a soft nod, still on edge. Corey's gaze bore a hole into the back of my head. I sat at the desk, and Corey joined me. His body was next to mine, and it took everything in me not to brush up against him. Focus, Damien. I turned to the computer and started to work, following Corey's instructions. After a little bit of back and forth, we had the prototype design, which we would improve throughout the night. As we worked close to one another, Corey cleared his throat. I turned and looked at him. What is it? I figured you, of all people, would be the one to ask about it. About? About why I brought you here. I figured it was because you wanted to confront me on what happened back then. Or maybe you had it out for me. So let's talk. I turned around and faced him. Corey's eyes glowed, almost like a fiery hatred. Why did you leave me that night? Why did you force me to have to cover the rent when we lived together? I sat there, stunned. I never did that. I left you the money. I never got it. It was very hard for me, Damien. When you left me high and dry like that, I thought you didn't care about my feelings. I did, though. I just got tired of you always bringing over your boyfriend and then making me feel like the odd man out. Why? Jealous? Yeah, just a bit. The constant tension between Corey and me back then ate me alive. Maybe? So, you did like me then? He mused, a half smile creeping to his face. I figured as much. Heat filled my cheeks. What's it to you? Nothing. I just had my suspicions. That's all. His hand lingered a little closer to my shoulder. I turned around and faced him. You've been rude to me ever since you got here. Why? What did I do to you? It's not that, he replied, looking away. It's just been hard to be around you. Why? Because of the rent? I left it for you. You didn't. But I did. I'll go to the bank and get the statements if I had to. It would be hard, but if I had to do that to get him off my back, then so be it. His expression softened a little as his eyes looked to my right. It isn't just that. Then what is it? Because I'm tired of this constant back and forth, and it happened so fast. I was stunned, completely speechless. And I had Corey's lips on mine. They were soft and plump, with a hint of cinnamon. This is nice. I kissed him back almost immediately, relishing the kiss. We may have our problems, but kissing this man's lips felt damn good. He pulled away before we got too far. Corey looked away and chewed his lip. I like you, Damien. And well, seeing you again has reignited old feelings. What about Brandon? It doesn't matter. I'm sorry for the way I treated you. If you want, we can take things slow and try to be more amicable. I nodded. That would be nice. Corey looked up and smiled. It was a rarity, but it looked good. Yeah, it would be nice. For the rest of the night, the tension dissipated, replaced with our feelings. What did this mean? Did Corey like me and want something with me? Or was he just confused and conveying mixed feelings? Either way, I wanted another taste of his lips, and maybe something more. Corey was much nicer to me after that night. The campaign went off without a hitch, and he seemed to be in a better mood. The awkward wall that stood between us started to dissipate, but there was still something there, something he wanted to say. I finally got my answers when he approached my desk and asked if I was doing anything tonight. I want to meet with you for dinner so we can go over the graphics for the next quarter, and an opportunity for you. I sat there stunned. What kind of opportunity? It couldn't have anything to do with the kiss, right? All I could do was nod. That evening, Corey took me out to dinner at a nice little place. We sat down and ordered, and the server disappeared. We conversed. It was mostly innocuous conversations, along with some work-related information. Throughout the night, I sensed there was more to Corey's words than what he uttered. After dinner, we walked out. I turned to him and smiled. I should get going. It's late. Stick around for a bit, he said, almost instructing me with the tone he had. There's something I need to speak with you about. Okay. He led me down towards the riverwalk. We walked side by side in unison. I flushed, feeling the closeness of our bodies. My thoughts raced, and I began reeling as I thought about that night. We shared the kiss and the possibility of something more. He brought me to a darker area off the path and stopped. Turning to face me, I gazed into those hazel orbs. What did you want to tell me? Corey hesitated, something he rarely did. I'm sorry about the way I acted, Damien. About assuming you didn't pay me back. I never got the money, and I thought you did that on purpose, but most of all, I hated myself back then. I thought about you, even when I was dating Brandon. Oh, I didn't know that, I replied, eyes widening as I heard the bomb drop. Did he like me, even back then? I also liked him back then, but never made a move because of stupid Brandon always lingering around like a fly. Corey reached out and touched my cheek. We don't have to tell the office, but I enjoyed that kiss that night and wouldn't mind trying again. I stood there, as stunned as I could be. He wanted a relationship, or at least to test the waters. Nodding slowly, I smiled. I would like that too. I've always liked you. Corey chuckled. Maybe this is a sign that we're meant for each other and should stop lying to ourselves. Maybe so. Corey leaned in and captured my lips. I kissed him back, wrapping my hands around his shoulders. He grabbed my hips and pulled me towards him, inciting a gasp from me. He pressed his tongue inside, and it mingled with mine, and I moaned softly. He pulled back and gently caressed my jaw. Want to take this back to my place? Sure, I guess, like old times. With our hands entwined, we went back to Corey's place. I stayed there the night, and soon, feelings from before sprang up. This time, though, I didn't plan on running away, and I would embrace them no matter what. Our office relationship blossomed to the point where it became hard to stay away from each other. I go to Corey's office during the break, where we would share kisses and indulge in one another. Sometimes we stayed late because we didn't want to go back. I was falling hard and fast, much harder than I'd fallen for anyone before. It was like that kiss switched on something I longed, ignored, and brought to life unbridled feelings for this man. For Corey, it was the same way. We worked so well together that even he gave me a promotion. There were talks about the office, about our growing relationship, and even HR was surprised that we got along. It was like a dream come true, a fairy tale, one that I loved. Nothing could bring us down. Corey asked to come with me to a networking event. I said yes. It seemed pretty straightforward. We met a few other marketing agencies and big names, where we provided our services. Corey did well talking to these people and provided support by explaining our services. So far, everything has been great. That was until I saw a pair of gray eyes looking at the two of us like we didn't belong. Corey frowned, and I recognized who it was. Brandon, his ex. He marched over and looked at the two of us. His eyes lingered, and a smile crossed his lips. Corey, fancy seeing you here. Likewise, Brandon. Miss me? I take that you want to try again? He leaned in, uncomfortably close to Corey, who moved away. No, I'm not. His gaze then turned to me, and soon his eyes widened. What is this thief doing here? The patrons around the area looked at us, annoyed by the disturbance. I shook my head. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play dumb. You left him high and dry back when you two were roommates. Here you are, acting like there's nothing wrong. Brandon, please. Oh, please, Corey. You talk so much smack about him, and even said you'd never speak to him after what happened. Now you're chummy? Please. Brandon turned around, but before he took a step, he spoke again. Damien, I hope you know that Corey secretly hates you, and he's still upset about what happened. I don't know what happened, but I doubt he'll ever forgive you. As he walked away, I stood there, feeling discomforted. Corey touched my shoulders, but it felt hollow. He still hated me. He still thought I'd screwed him over. I wanted to get to the bottom of this and prove to Corey that I never meant to hurt him. Corey had been distant after what happened. So was I. The fact that he still regarded me that way hurt more than it should have. I didn't know what to say to him, or if there was anything to say. After the event, I went straight home and ignored his calls. The entire day, I stayed in my cubicle. Brandon's words lingered. At 5, Corey came over. Come to my office. I need to go. Come, or you're fired. Ouch. With a nod, I followed. When he closed the door, he took 2 steps closer. Why are you avoiding me? I'm not. I'm just... Don't lie, Damien. He spat. I know you've been avoiding me. Chewing my lip, I tried to figure out what to say. It's what Brandon said. You still don't believe me, do you? It's not that. Then what is it? You still see me as the unreliable, jealous roommate that left you to pay hundreds in the rent. Corey didn't say anything, which was enough evidence alone. You do then. No, Damien, I never... I can tell. Your hesitation says it all. Corey sighed. Well, can you prove it? Can you show me that you didn't abandon me? I nodded. I will. I'll prove it, and you'll regret everything. Without another word, I stormed out of the office, angry and confused. For the next week, I gathered evidence, the billing statements, and confirmation with the place where I left the rent money. As I spoke to the woman with proof, one thing came up. Brandon did come around shortly after. Frustrated, I gritted my teeth. Did Brandon have something to do with this? I didn't know how I could prove it without security footage. After some back and forth, the apartment manager finally let me look at it. There he was. Brandon came in, and he took the money, pocketing it. I felt anger flash across my face, and when Corey came in the next day, the person said he didn't have the money. Yeah, because Brandon took it. I copied the evidence and put it on a flash drive. I drove back to the office and rushed to the office. Opening the door, I threw it open. Corey, The sight before me shocked me to the core. Brandon is on top of Corey. A cat-like grin sat on his face. Corey pushed him off and turned to me. Damien, it isn't what it is. No, it sure is. You never believe me. Damien, please. No, I'm done, Corey. I know exactly where I stand. I'm not taking any new projects with you anymore. I turned around and left, the tears in my eyes forming before I stepped through the threshold. I couldn't bear to see Corey. Whenever I thought of him, I remember the kiss and anger incited. How could a guy who wanted me so badly do that to me? I was such a fool. I started to walk from home. Natalie allowed me to, and she put it in the system. It helped, as it meant I didn't have to see Corey. Still working from home never stopped the thoughts. I cried while I was trying to work and was so distracted. With weekly meetings, I sat in the corner, hollowed and unfazed. I didn't even turn the camera on, and I had my mic muted. I was such a fool for trusting Corey again. I needed to get over him, but I couldn't. I worked around the clock until I got a message from Corey. It demanded I come in, or else I would be terminated. I needed this job. My debts were finally disappearing. With a sigh, I grabbed my stuff and went over there. I got there after hours. As I stepped through his office, the lights turned on. A pair of hands wrapped around me. Blinking, I looked down and saw Corey. What are you doing? Corey looked at me. I'm sorry, Damien. I'm sorry, I can't avoid this any longer. What do you mean? He stepped back and began to explain what happened that day. Brandon tripped and fell on top of him. He did on purpose to hurt me. As Corey explained, he shook his head. Brandon asked to try again. I told him no. He got angry, but I told him that I never fully trusted him after he cheated on me. I didn't know he cheated. Yeah, I kept it quiet. That's when he said he was an idiot because I trusted his lies about the rent. You mean, yeah, he told me he stole your rent money. I stood there, taken aback. Yeah, I have the video evidence too. We can prosecute him later. When I learned that, I was livid, and I realized that I should have listened to you. I'm sorry, Damien. You don't have to forgive me, but I want you to know that I'm sorry. I hugged him tightly and pulled him close. You know, I'm the forgiving type. Plus, I still like you, even if you're easy to fool. Corey chuckled dryly. I guess you love this fool then. Yeah, I do. We kissed in his office, the unresolved feelings now out in the open. We spent the night together, cuddling in each other's arms, kissing passionately. So, want to try again? Corey nodded. Yes, Damien, I would love to try again. And this time, I won't listen to Brandon. I laughed. I'll hold you to it. After the truth was revealed, Corey took legal action against Brandon for stealing. The evidence was enough to try him, and he had to give the money back to me and also pay for damages. Our relationship ended up being amazing. We moved in together once more. This time, we stopped hiding things from each other and always told each other what we really felt. He wasn't just my roommate anymore. He was my lover and someone I cherished. The end. Have you ever had a crush on an old roommate? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force.